You're probably wondering who I am and why you should continue watching this. Well, I'm an ex-GameStop employee who really sucks at Photoshop, and I'm here to save you money. How am I going to do that? Simple, by showing you why you should never do business with GameStop. If you've never seen a GameStop before, they're a store that specializes in selling used games. Lately, they've been spreading like syphilis at a frat house, and I personally like to put a stop to that. There are a lot of people like me who highly dislike GameStop, but you can't truly hate the company until you actually work there. Only until you've been in the trenches can you truly know how badly they're ripping people off. Fortunately, the overpaid corporate halfwits got the bright idea to give away their core business model on the back of the employee name tags. There are 4 core parts of the GameStop circle of life: reservations, trades, used sales, and subscriptions. Despite the fact that reservations are at the top center of the card, it's not the crux of GameStop's profits. I found it used to be a common misconception in the gaming news media that GameStop's lifeblood was in reservations. The heart of GameStop's operation is actually in the buying and selling of used games. So I figured I'd get to the point and attack GameStop there first, in case you forgot the popular villain today, or my complete lack of artistic ability causes your eyes to bleed. Before I continue, let me point out the fact that this series is not meant for the wee ones. At times I swear like a sailor getting his genitals sauteed, and I make more than one reference to people having unpleasant things happen to their rectums. For kids with no parents in the room, you already know when there's something you're not supposed to watch is something cool like people being sliced in half or boobies. Any warning not to watch it is just going to make you want to watch it more, so at least don't be stupid and keep the volume down. Oh yeah, and all of you are probably going to want to full screen this, because it wasn't until I did 3,000 plus frames that I realized the text was hard to read on YouTube-sized videos. If you've ever walked into a GameStop before and took a good look around, you would have noticed that most of their stock consisted of used games and accessories. Somewhere along the line, GameStop realized it could make more money by buying than selling used games that could be sold for less than new and add more to the bottom line. If you're a loyal edge card carrying GameStop shopper, you probably think I'm full of crap for hating on GameStop. You say that their used stock allows you to buy games for less, which at the end of the day saves you money. I'll concede that buying used games is a good way to save money, but when it comes to used games, GameStop is below the bottom of the barrel. By typing Grand Theft Auto 4 used PS3 into Google, I found an eBay auction with it going for $38, including shipping, when GameStop had it going for $55. Of course, you have to be careful when shopping on eBay because there are douchebags who will scam you if you're not careful. Always make sure to buy from reputable sellers and know a scam when you see it. Honestly though, if you're dumb enough to pay a claim history for a lottery you won in Nigeria, I have a nice DVD rewinder you might be interested in. Along with online auction sites like eBay, there's sites like the minimally designed Craigslist. Craigslist allows people to post want ads for whatever they have to offer. They have ads for just about everything from video games to people that want to be spanked. A quick search showed that people were willing to sell Grand Theft Auto 4 for $35. If you're paranoid about getting scammed by random sellers on the net, Amazon's less random featured sellers also came up and they had it going for $34. The most expensive of the new selection was still less than GameStop's used price. So this 2-minute Google search shows that buying used is a great way to save money, just as long as you don't do it at GameStop. For the veterans of the internet among you, everything I just said can best be replied with no shit Sherlock, but working at GameStop you find just how oblivious people are to the wonderful world of internet shopping. The average person either just uses it for email or is a 70-year-old MySpace addict who have a seizure, she goes 90 seconds without checking her comments. If all you do is hop from store to store, you're missing out on quite a bit. By shopping online, you can instantly browse to compare tons of locations to get what you want. Even places that you think strictly as brick and mortar like Best Buy will have exclusive deals on their website that you sometimes can't get in their store. If you're one of those people that still hasn't caught on to the internet marketplace, you should start looking into doing more your shopping there, because just using the internet for procrastinating at work is actually costing you money. You say you don't like to shop online and prefer to shop in person. If you're going the brick and mortar route, there's still better options in GameStop. Hollywood Video's baby brother Game Crazy also does the used game thing, and I found they have Grand Theft Auto 4 for the same price. You may say Game Crazy basically has a copy-pasted version of the GameStop model, but there's at least one bullshit practice I've never seen them do. You see, when GameStop notices that demand goes up for an old game, they decide to be a dick about it and raise the price. Game Crazy still had it $10, so keep this in mind if you're looking for some games you can't find new anymore. I went to a nearby play and trade and again found it for pretty much the same price. But I found something else I've never seen at a GameStop before. The display copies had shrink wrap on them, so the last copy in the store wasn't sticky with kid germs. The used games actually had some sort of box art on them. A used copy of Silent Hill 2 caught my attention. When I saw the disc, it looked like it would actually play. I saw the same game at GameStop for $5 more and without the case and booklet. GameStop's competitors, while smaller, actually seem to put in effort to make sure that their product doesn't look like ass. And then there's, well, what else is there really? Instead of competing, GameStop realized they could wave around the big sacks of cash and buy out anybody that goes against them. Since they're the only game in town now, they can do whatever they want, even sell used games for more than what they cost when they came out. When you really think about it, the difference in price between new and used games at GameStop is really quite laughable. But the people who buy used games at GameStop don't get ripped off as badly as the poor saps who sell these games at GameStop. For those of you who have traded, actually, the word trade is an accurate term because trade implies that you're giving something for something equal in exchange. The deceptive use of the word trade seems to work because I've actually had times where kids are giving me the games they bought ages ago and expecting me to give them brand new games in return. Of course, people who have sold their games at GameStop know that trades are as equal as trading protection in exchange for your manflower. The way it works is you give your games to GameStop and each game has a set value. If you're lucky, you'll get about half of what you paid for your game. I never found out who set GameStop's bullshit trade prices that somehow managed to amaze me even after working there for months, but I had a feeling when Scrooge waked up with an elephant tusk lodged in his ass. Once GameStop has your game, they'll sell it back for about double of what you sold it to them for. It always amazes me that people willingly piss away their money like this. I once saw a kid trading a sealed copy of SmackDown vs. Raw and he got as a gift for $25 credit the week it came out. Before he even left the store, the game got sold to the next person in line for $55 cash. As bad as these prices sound, they're considered ideal conditions by GameStop standards and probably the most you'll get for your game. These are the prices you would get if you bought a game the day it came out and sold it back to them before you even left the store. If you have sports games to trade in, expect to get even less, even though GameStop will charge the same as with any other game. If you want to trade in last year's version, don't expect to get enough to get yourself a Happy Meal. Although, to be fair, it also has to do with the fact that EA sells the same game every year and will continue doing so as long as people are willing to pay $60 for it. It's a similar situation with games based off movies and TV shows, which are either designed to be glorified advertisements or just capitalize on the popularity of existing franchises. Not to mention the fact that they almost always suck considerable amounts of ass. You can also expect to get less for your games if you have the gall to actually take time to play them. At the time I pasted this together, BioShock hasn't even been out for 6 months. BioShock has won numerous awards and it's a game you expect to get a decent trade value out of, but because you decided to keep it for more than 2 minutes, GameStop has already cut the amount of credit down to $20. At least GameStop was kind enough to also cut the price from $55 to $50. Believe it or not, the trade values get worse when you trade in a system. On current gen systems, GameStop will give you $160 for a Wii, $115 for a 360, and $270 for a PS3. Then they'll mark up a used Wii to $230, a used 360 to $220, and a used PS3 to $450. Here's the kicker. When they resell a used 360 or a Wii, they don't even sell the complete package. A little trick GameStop likes to pull when they take in a used 360 is they take in the system and hard drive separately and sell them back individually to maximize profits. Then when you buy a used Wii, they sell the system without Wii Sports. If you were to buy a used copy of Wii Sports with your console to complete the package, the difference in price between new and used would only be $10. They do this shit with game bundles too. If you were to trade in the Hitman trilogy, they would take it in as 3 individual games, which when purchased together, used cost more than buying the trilogy new. What makes this even more insane is the fact that these values aren't for actual cash, but for store credit. It's a pretty clever system really. By giving you store credit, you have to spend the money at GameStop, so they never really lose the money they give to you. If you want something you use for goods and services, which is what money is supposed to be used for, you'll get 20% off their already crap trade values. This means a Wii goes down to $128, a used 360 goes down to $92, and a used PS3 goes to $216. Another trick GameStop likes to pull is flat pricing on every SKU. If you bring in a sealed game, you'll get the same amount of credit as somebody who threw away the case and used the disc to trial cement. They use flat pricing for selling games too, and having to shell out $55 for a game that doesn't even have a case of booklet is a kick in the balls. They also use this method of fleecing with their new games too. As many of you already know, GameStop likes to sell open games as new. Due to flat pricing on SKUs, just as long as it's never been played in a console, you'll have to pay $60 for GTA 4 even if it's been dipped in Rosie O'Donnell's menstrual blood. When you have a business model designed to rip people off to maximize profits, your company is going to make a lot of money, which is why GameStop has exploded over the past 3 years. This is all because GameStop turned their stores into a bunch of upscale pawn shops, as the guys at Penny Arcade like to call them, but the term upscale pawn shop is really pushing it. I lost track of how many times I was labeling games when the smell of weed rolls in. That's the smell of people wanting cash for their games. This brings me to the quality of GameStop's used products. Those of you that have tried to buy a new game at GameStop probably had the employee try to sell you a used copy of the game instead. They usually pitch it saying it's less than a new copy and that you have 1 week to return it for a refund. There's 3 reasons this happens. First off, you already know that GameStop buys their games at nasal rate prices, so they make more money off the used game. In fact, whenever we scan a new game and the computer sees that we have a used copy in our inventory, it tells us to sell the customer the used game instead. Secondly, employees are rated on how much used product they show, and it looks bad on their numbers for an employee to sell new games. If you honestly think the employee gives a flying shit if you save $2 on a game, you must be one of those people that believed in Santa when they were 14. Lastly, the one return policy saves GameStop money. This seems counterintuitive because you think all those people returning games because they suck would cost GameStop a lot of money. That's not much of an issue because people willingly waste their money on crap all the time. If the average person had decent taste in games, 50-cent Bulletproof would never have made greatest hits. The 7-day return policy saves GameStop a boatload of money because they don't have to pay anybody to test the games they buy off people. See, there would be times where I'd walk into the store and there'd literally be a stack of 50 games with no case for us to process. If the store was dead for the rest of the night, the 2 people working the shift would be able to create a case, label, and file each game by the end of the night if we were lucky. There's never any time to test the games, and instead of hiring a dedicated tester, GameStop makes you test the games. GameStop's policy is if a used game doesn't work, they allow you to swap it for another copy. This sounds great in theory, but in practice it ultimately just wastes people's time. A customer once came in to buy a used copy of MLB Slugfest only to come back 30 minutes later to return it as defective, and then come back to return that copy, and then once more just to get a refund. I once had a lady come back 3 times in one day to return a defective PS2. It got to the point where she wouldn't leave the store unless we tested the next system that we gave to her. Fortunately, the 4th time was a charm. But during my very next fucking shift, I had a guy come back with the defective system, and the next 3 replacements I went to get were also defective. The system they were returning wouldn't read games. The first one I got from the back didn't even have a controller. The next one had a bent video port, and the last one had a broken D-pad. I had to mix and match parts from each system in order to have a working set. You're probably asking, why don't we just check the games? It only takes a second to see if a game was used as sandpaper. Well, we do, but we only check that the game is in there and that it isn't broken in half or melted. The fact is, if a game looks like it's been run over with steel wool, corporate tells us to take it in. Now, why would GameStop intentionally take in damaged product? Say someone trades in a copy of Gears of War that looks like they tried to ski on cement with it. GameStop buys the game for $13.60 cash, and then they sell it to some poor sap for $45. That guy who came in to buy a game instead tests the game for GameStop pro bono and brings it back as defective. GameStop sends the game to a warehouse where it can get resurfaced, and then it gets sent back to a store where it can be sold once again for triple what they paid for it. It's strange that GameStop doesn't seem to be satisfied with having their way with your wallet. They also like to use you as free labor in the guise of a money-back guarantee. A while before I worked at GameStop, some stores used to have in-house disc buffers to repair games. Unfortunately, this idea got dropped because games can be shipped and resurfaced in bulk at a warehouse. Now it probably doesn't even cost them a pace to repair a game, and why have good customer service when you can be more profitable? This is also probably why I never saw any disc doctors sold at GameStop, because people repairing the games dig into profits made from buying defective product. When it comes to systems, they're a little bit more strict with what they take in. I'm guessing it's because it actually costs money to have these things repaired. We're officially supposed to test the system before we take it in. Of course, this doesn't actually happen, because if it did, I wouldn't have to have gone through 4 defective systems in one transaction. If there was an official protocol on how to test systems, GameStop didn't spend any time telling us about it. Some people are thorough and put a game in there to make sure that the drive and controller work. Others just make sure the thing turns on, but most of the time I find people only care that it comes with all the cables before taking it in. Now, if the system is defective, that doesn't mean GameStop won't take it. All they do is charge a fee, then take the system to the warehouse to go get refurbished. And by refurbished, I guess GameStop means they tinker with the system until it turns on, because I had those damn things come back defective too. I thoroughly expect GameStop to start running some bullshit ads with a standard politically correct cast of employees and a deaf employee in a wheelchair reading about gender equality thrown in for spice, assuring customers that their products are top notch. The problem is, any experienced GameStop employee has tales of some of the shit that gets through the system. In a single night, one of the employees went through the portable systems to find that over 50 of them had to be moved to defective, with defects ranging from dead pixels to the screen was completely blank to the system wouldn't turn on at all to the screen was all cut up like it was emo. There have also been reports where GameStop has sold demo discs as full games. My favorite story has to be the time where some kid wanted to return their defective game, and we started looking through the doors to see which ones were in good condition, and the other guy at the counter started laughing. Apparently, one of the cases had a Britney Rears Wild Backstage Sex Party DVD behind the game. Man, there must be one really pissed off 12-year-old out there. You may say that my experiences are the exception because the used games you buy from GameStop are practically brand new. Well, odds are it's because they're stolen. GameStop is a pawn shop any way you slice it, and like with any pawn shop, they attract crime. A sizable chunk of the games we got traded in at my store came from guys needing their fix. Really, they would outright tell us. They'd usually come in once a week to bring in stacks of sealed games that they surely paid full price for and decided to trade in because they didn't like the cover art. Whenever I went into other stores, I'd almost always hear how another store in our district had somebody come in for their 9mm discount. Come to think of it, the only reason any sane person would trade in their stuff at these prices is if they acquired them for free. It always makes me laugh when people say they don't want to shop via the internet because of cybercrime. I don't know about you, but I personally never had to wait behind a cokehead when ordering stuff online. When buying stuff on the internet, just don't do anything stupid and you'll be fine. Also, I have to say, there's something just wrong about people selling stolen merchandise while there's kids playing on the DS Lite kiosk. Your best bet for getting the most of your games is through direct trade. Some people who I tell to use an eBay or Craigslist style system complain that it's too much work for some reason. While it is slightly easier to leave your game at GameStop and to walk out with enough to get a stick of bubblegum, you have to think about how much you're losing by not putting in a pinch more work. Remember that copy of Grand Theft Auto 4 that was going for $38 on eBay? If the seller were to go to GameStop, he'd get $30 store credit. For those of you complaining about getting $8 more for spending less time than it would take you to drive to GameStop, remember he's getting $38 in real money off eBay. Not GameStop's here's the money for the game you gave us, but you can only give it back to us fake money. It's pointless to use GameStop as a middleman because in the end the seller gets $14 less and the buyer has to pay $17 more. By getting rid of the middleman entirely, everybody gets to go home with more money in their pockets. Now say you're the type of person that buys a game, beats it, and never plays it again. You say you like GameStop's system because you just want to get some quick cash to get another game. With the amount of money you're losing by selling to GameStop, it's essentially paying $36 to rent a game for a few weeks when it would be cheaper to rent it 5 days at a time. It does not make any sense to do this unless you also get your jollies from throwing 20s off a bridge. If you're the type of person who just buys, beats, and trades, you should look into GameFly. Supply. It's a service that allows you to rent games for as long as you want for a flat subscription fee. You can play your games and get another one without paying full price and losing half the value by selling to GameStop. GameStop may have the biggest share of the market, but you do have better options. Now, why would GameStop remain profitable if they do all these things to their customers? It's simply because people still line up to be violated by these pawn shops. This isn't a new phenomenon. If history has taught me anything, is that people will buy any crap if you market it properly to exploit consumer ignorance. There lies GameStop's Achilles heel. Once people know that they don't have to settle for their worthless, overpriced products, they won't be able to get away with buying games for less than $20 and selling them for $50. You know there's better out there, so there's no reason for you to shop at GameStop anymore. That does it for this episode. Tune in next time to learn the ins and outs of those reservations and subscriptions employees won't stop pestering you about. Until then, remember not to settle for less, or companies like GameStop will continue to grow. They've shown they have no intention of stopping their campaign of monopolization and continue to buy out companies all over the world. They're not just doing it with game stores anymore either. Let's just hope they don't start buying out sex shops.
Yeah, suck it. Yeah, rock it. Living life like superstars. Shot kills the present. I can see it coming out of the corner.
For those of you that haven't noticed, this style of journalism was inspired by the zero punctuation reviews created by Ben Yahtzee Croshaw. I'm a huge fan of the internet show because in a world of angry video game nerd ripoffs who think they're funny because they swear like a third grader trying to impress their friends, Yahtzee gave us something new in the form of rapid-fire long-word-laced assaults on whichever game got in his sights. I've been a fan since the Psychonauts review, and it's while watching this video that I got the inspiration to make this flash-based attack on GameStop. By using Yahtzee's style, I could remain anonymous while giving GameStop the giant boot to the ass they so richly deserve. Of course, I haven't been able to copy Yahtzee's style perfectly. I'm a software engineering major, and I lack in the Department of Artistic Ability. I have to compensate by using my good friends Google Image Search, Control C, and V. My least favorite subject in school was English because it was a practice in trying to push our capacity for boredom. So I don't have Yahtzee's talent to use words rarely seen outside the nether regions of Webster's Dictionary. I also don't have Yahtzee's trademark ability to speak faster than sound can carry words. This may be a good thing because it means people can watch the videos without having to replay them 3 times to understand what the hell I just said. I also don't have a really cool hat, and I'm pretty much the most generic looking person on earth. It's amazing how many times I've been driving down the street when somebody starts to honk at me like I'm their long lost brother, only to have me stare back at them when it turns out I'm not actually one of the many clones of me that apparently been living throughout Southern California. So to differentiate myself from the other trace over graphics, I gave myself hair just so I wouldn't be so bald. Others who have mimicked Yahtzee's style have received threats of arson, which seems unreasonable because imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Of course, I'm not too worried about my house going up in flames because I live in Los Angeles, and if Yahtzee were to try anything, he gets shanked, shot, and pissed on before he even makes it to my front lawn. Then I'll be able to steal his hat, which we all know is the source of his powers. Anyway, enough about my creepy man crush, let's get back to the GameStop bashing. But first, I'm going to hit the fast forward button because I'm too lazy to re-record the rest of this episode.
By shopping at GameStop, you'll eventually have an employee either try to sell you a subscription or try to get you to reserve a game. Informed consumers know this is because employees are enraged in how many subscriptions and reservations I get. At the end of my shift, my manager will usually tell me what I got. He'd say something like, you got 5 and 3, which means 5 reservations and 3 subscriptions. Reservations are when you put money down on a game for them to hold it for you, and subscriptions give you 1 year of the Edge card and Game Informer. Of the 2 things employees are supposed to pitch, subscriptions are easily the biggest waste of your money. Mid last year, corporate sent out a training DVD to tell us how to sell subscriptions, and a perfectly stiff piece of paper to verify that we watched the DVD. We did what every good GameStop store did. We tossed the DVD and just had everybody sign the paper because we know another one of corporate's half-baked ideas when we see them. One day when the store was slow, I popped in the DVD and we all had a good laugh at how drugged up the dimwits upstairs are. The thing that got me the most about the tripe they sent us is how they told us to sell it as a magazine subscription with a free Edge card. Those of us in the trenches know this doesn't work because Game Informer isn't good enough for my dog to shit on. Let's open one of these up to see what I mean. On the first page, I see an ad for a SOCOM PSP game. Turning the page, I see an ad for Need for Speed. Turning the page yet again, I got another ad and then another. I had to keep turning until I got 10 pages in before I got to the table of contents. I did a page count and 83 fucking pages had ads on them. What weren't officially considered ads were previews and reviews that might as well have been ads. Paying money for this would be like buying a season of the Shopping Channel on DVD. It doesn't make sense to buy a collection of ads. You might be willing to excuse the fact that the magazine is 47% ads because magazines are dependent on ad space to pay the bills. What you cannot excuse is the fact that the ads are the most interesting thing in the magazine. Another claim the training video made about Game Informer is that it had world-exclusive coverage and timely information. Going to Game Informer for the latest gaming news is like going to McDonald's for world-class cuisine. When you want your gaming news, you go to one of the many video game websites on the net because they'll break their news the moment they get it. Even when Game Informer managed to get exclusive information on Grand Theft Auto 4, it was leaked all over the internet before subscribers even got their issues. Game Informer will occasionally get something of substance like an article last year on the licensed schlock the industry keeps churning out, but what's usually sandwiched between the barrage of ads and outdated previews can best be described as liquid rat shit. We got a good laugh from the employees as the videos touting of Game Informer's unbiased reviews. Saying Game Informer is unbiased is like saying Bill Gates' marriage was about his perfectly sculpted body. For example, Lair, a game where you control the game, you just make requests and hope it's in a good mood, managed to get a 7.25. The fact that the training video tells us the magazine helps customers avoid bad games directly contradicts the fact that just about everything gets a good score. I'm guessing this has to do with the fact that this garbage is stuff like a turkey with ads, and Game Informer wants to avoid biting down on the cocks they suck on. You think as journalists, the crew of Game Informer would like to preserve the reviewer integrity, but considering GameStop owns the magazine, it doesn't surprise me. After all, people buying shitty games means more money in their pockets. I went to go investigate to see if there were any known cases of Game Informer being paid off, and by that I mean I glanced over the Wikipedia page. I indeed found the reason why every game kicks so much ass according to Game Informer. Turns out Game Informer's scale has 10 to be excellent, 7 to be mediocre. I thought this was odd because other game reviewers typically have the mediocrity mark at 5. Then it hit me like a Shinku Hadouken. Even though they're both saying the same thing. Which sounds better? Lair getting a 5.5 from DGM or 7.25 from Game Informer? Yeah, I bet the advertisers like that 7.25 more too. EGM later switched to a letter-based rating system to do away with any ambiguity that the number systems have. This is something Game Informer would never do. By scaling the rating system so bad games can get better numbers, you can allow the writers to remain in denial that they're legitimate journalists and still please the advertisers. Even if you take the scaling into account, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that Game Informer's writers know approximately dick about video games. Whenever the next issue came into the store, we would look through it and be amazed at Game Informer's uncanny ability to suck even more than the previous month. A while back, EGM was supposed to get exclusive pictures of Street Fighter 4, and like with all exclusives, it got leaked all over the internet. But I still got the issue because along with pictures, the article went deep into the mechanics and design philosophy of the game. It's truly a shame that legitimate publications are losing an audience to manufactured dross like Game Informer because GameStop is using its deep pockets to jam its crap up people's urethras. Probably the most shameless stretch the training video tries to pull is boasting how $14.99 is the best deal out there, and the customer gets over $50 in savings because his bile is $6 an issue. It doesn't work that way, GameStop. You can't say buying a pile of shit saves you $100 if you charge $20 per turd. Now you know, corporate. If you're going to try to get people to throw away their money on subscriptions, you pitch the Edge card, because Game Informer has the literary quality of a pissed-on book of expired coupons. If you do decide to throw away your money on a subscription, whatever value you get out of it will be from the Edge card. The Edge card lasts for 1 year, gives you 10% off used games, and gives you 10% more when you sell your games. How can GameStop afford to give you such lavish savings? Even with all the discounts, the savvy shopper should see right through this deal, because their profit margins are still bloody huge. You may try to justify the purchase of the Edge card by saying you spend enough for the discount to add up. This is exactly what I thought when I got suckered into buying it when I didn't know any better. In order to just make up for the cost of the card, you have to spend $150 in used games. Even if you spend $200 a year in used video games, you only save $5. That's right, you have to pay $15 for a card and spend $200 in used games in order to save $5. Am I the only one who sees something seriously wrong with the math here? The other thing employees pitch is the trade-in boost. So instead of GameStop giving you $1 for your game, you get $1.10. Also realize when the employees trying to sell you the card, they tend to forget to mention certain things due to a case of convenient amnesia. First off, it's no good on cash trade, so if you want to trade in your copy of Virtua Fighter 5 for some quick cash, you're still only getting $6.40. Employees also commonly forget to mention that it doesn't work on the buying and selling of used systems. I did get quite a few people who bought the card just so they can get a discount on used 360, only to find out that the card doesn't work and of course is non-refundable. It also gets highly irritating when a customer complains that they can't get more money for the Red Ring 360. A while back, the magazine used to come with a 10% off coupon every couple months, and employees used to use this to pitch subscriptions. For some reason, Game Informer doesn't have these coupons anymore. I guess GameStop thought the paper would be better spent elsewhere because the magazine didn't have enough ads. But the football to the groin is what happens if you lose the card or simply forget to bring it with you. When people lost their card, there was no national database that employees could access to give people their discount. This is in contrast to the grocery stores by my house, which also have discount programs. If we forgot our cards, we could just give them our phone number and we could get our discount. Another thing I thought was really fishy is how easy the Edge card number smears off the card. There have been cases where the account is only 3 months old and it was already impossible to scan or decipher the account number. I guess this is because GameStop figured out they can make more money by not giving people the discount they paid for. There's two workarounds we do when a customer lost their card. You can get the account number off any receipt where you use the card, but that's usually not an option because most people tend to throw away the receipts after a few days. Secondly, people can bring in the magazine that comes with the subscription and employees should be able to give you the discount because the account number is on the address bar. But for some reason, whenever we typed the number, it never worked at the register. A lot of the time, we would just scan one of the employees' Edge cards when people forgot their card at home. But the district manager cracked down on this and told us we could get fired if we gave people their discounts. You'd figure a training video about subscriptions would cover what to do in these situations, but then again, it didn't seem to be too eager to cover how to get people their discounts as it was covering how to jam subscriptions into the nearest available orifice. Those of you still trying to justify your purchase are probably saying that you spend enough money anyway. Why not save a couple dollars and get 12 pieces of highly ineffective kindling? Saving $1 is better than saving nothing, right? Fact is, I could save more money without the Edge card than you can with it. Let me tell you about some interesting finds I had while working at GameStop. Say if you wanted to get a copy of Disgaea 2 for the PS2. You go to GameStop and their price for a used copy was $34.99, and using the Edge card you get $3.50 off. I instead could go to Game Crazy and get the game for $20 new. That's right, I paid less for my shiny sealed copy than you pay for your GameStop used copy. This means I spent $20 and saved $15 on what I would have paid for a used copy of Disgaea 2, and you spent $31.49 and saved $3.50 minus the cost of the card, so you're still $11.50 in the hole. Now let's say you wanted to get a copy of the orange box for the PC. GameStop doesn't sell used PC games because the whole issue is CD keys, so your card is about as useful as you have without his little blue pills. Going to Best Buy, I managed to get it on sale for $25. So far my total is $40 saved, and you're still $11.50 in the hole. alcohol from the cost of the card. I'm gonna go off on a tangent for a bit and talk about PC games and GameStop. It's always irritated me that most GameStops don't even carry PC games. The only time I saw GameStop carry any sizable amount was during the Burning Crusade launch. Whenever I passed by GameStop, I dropped by to see if they had anything my store didn't have. I did this quite a bit, considering you can't trip over a rock without landing into a GameStop. Of all the stores within reasonable driving distance, only 2 had any sizable PC section. You could be one of those people that say it's because PC gaming has all but one limb in the grave, but when I left the company, they were still selling Game Boy brick games used. I have to say, there's something seriously wrong with a company that only wants to sell you a product if they can buy it from you and sell it over and over again. Now let's say you want to get a copy of Pokemon Leaf Green to give as a gift. GameStop had the game at $29.99, which is freakishly high because almost all used GBA games don't come with a case and booklet. Here this card will take $3 off. Going to Target, I can get the Player's Choice version sealed for $19.99. Yep, GameStop expects you to pay $10 more for a game that doesn't even have the case and booklet. Now the totals are I saved a lot of money, and you still have to spend another $85 in used games to make up for the cost of the subscription. Why waste $15 to spend more on inferior products when you can save up to 50% for free by shopping elsewhere? Doing the math, you'll see the only thing the subscription does is give more readers for the shitty magazine so they can charge more for the ads, and give you the illusion that you're saving so you'll only go to GameStop and miss out on better deals that other places have. Then there's the other thing employees are rated on, reserves. GameStop loves reserves because even though you're ultimately spending the same amount of money, it's a lot easier to get people to spend $5 on impulse than it is $60. Then there's the fact that you're giving them money for essentially nothing. Oh sure, they have to give you your game eventually, but until then it's an interest-free loan that they can use for whatever they want. Even in a small store, employees were expected to get 2 reserves by the end of the night. Considering there are well over 5,000 GameStop-owned stores out there, with a minimum of 4 employees working a day, GameStop is making approximately an assload a day on just reserves. Also, by badgering you to commit to spending $60 before the game comes out, it means GameStop has your money before anybody else can get to it. Even if you decide to cancel, you still have to go back to the store once more so the employee can pester you to change your mind. Since most people throw away the receipts after a few days, most employees will say that you need a receipt in order to refund your reservations to prevent you from canceling. That excuse is a load of green shit and ham because you can just use your ID. The easiest way to prove this is to say that you want to cancel reserve and put the money towards 2 new reserves. Just watch how lenient the employees will get. See, when you cancel reserve, it's a -1 on the reserve count, meaning that they get 2 reserves and 3 cancellations, they're at -1 for the day. The system was particularly annoying when somebody else got a reserve and then the customer changes their mind only to have them cancel on me. If you call an employee on their line, they still won't refund your reservation, just threaten to call the district manager. It's much better to have a negative reserve count than it is to have the DM plant their foot, or worse, in your ass. If they say they don't have the number, that's a lie because it's in a big book that the store uses every day. If they still deny having it, just go to the nearest store and ask for it there. Stores compete with each other and they like having the DM yell at another store because all the store managers are after the district manager's cock. Another reason GameStop pushes reserves is because people forget about the reservations, which end up being pure profit in GameStop's pockets. $5 is really easy to spend on a whim, and considering I've seen people reserve games 2 years in advance, it's not impossible to forget. I once had a lady call almost all the stores in a district trying to figure out where she reserved her son's copy of Guitar Hero 3. Another day I was going through the reserve list to find that dozens of people still haven't picked up their copies of Halo 3 2 months after the game was released. This is by no means a rare occurrence because as I continued looking down the list, there were still reserves of Major League Baseball 2005 that weren't picked up. Don't expect employees to remind you about your forgotten reservations. It was an unofficial rule that if you saw somebody come in to pick up a reservation and you saw that they had other games that they haven't picked up yet, you didn't say anything about it. The reason is most of the time people change their mind about the game and then decide to cancel. Another trick I've seen employees use to pad their numbers is when the customer comes in to reserve again and they see they already have it reserved, they'll let the customer reserve the game for a second time without telling them. Apparently all the free money GameStop was getting wasn't enough because the company did an experiment to see if people would pay $10 for a reserve. Those of you that reserved Metroid Prime 3 for the Wii probably remember this. My guess is this led to a dip into the total reserves. One of the few non-CD reasons GameStop uses reserves is to determine how many games needs to be sent to which store. What's weird is that I started to notice the initial shipment of games that we would get on release dates started getting smaller and smaller even though we were getting busier. It made sense to me because reserved games are still a new product and GameStop always tries to minimize the amount of new product they sell. I thought I was seeing things for a while, but the other employees started noticing this intentional shortage on GameStop's part too. We didn't really care at the time because we could just say shit of reserved like the smug bastards we were. You figure holding back product would hurt business, but considering Tuesday is when most games come out and it's one of the slowest days of the week, it can't be hurting business too much because we would get a much larger shipment by the busy weekend. Sadly, this isn't the most underhanded method GameStop uses to get people to reserve. Something that really caught my eye one day when I was looking through the reserve list was that somebody put $5 down on cats. Yeah, somebody actually could not stand the thought of not having cats on release day. Actually, it was probably some poor mother who was ignorant of video games and was told that if she didn't reserve, all the copies would be swept up and her kid would get herpes or something. This is a common lie GameStop employees use to get you to reserve. While it's true that if you don't reserve the game at GameStop, there's a decent chance you won't get the game there on release date, all the other places that sell video games will have more than enough of them. Even then, especially if it's a hot title like Madden, GameStop will get stacks of them no matter how many get reserved. Hell, when I left GameStop, they still had Maddens from the original shipment. Along with gaming challenge mothers, those kids are GameStop's employees' favorite targets. You know, those spoiled 8-year-old kids you see walking around with a silver PSP, the newest iPod, and a $500 cell phone? The ones that are given anything they want due to the fact that their divorced parents are fighting for their affection? I bet you hate the little brats, but GameStop employees love these kids. Kids with money are easy numbers because children have no concept of the purpose of advertisement or CD salesmen. Ever noticed whenever a kids movie comes out, McDonald's plasters fucking everything with it? Think about it, what the hell do ogres and bees have to do with greasy burgers? Nothing, but companies know kids love cartoons, and when parents ask where they want to eat, they're gonna eat at the most Disneyed place. Likewise, GameStop employees take advantage of how impressionable kids are to squeeze out some numbers. If you think nobody would be so shameless as to sucker a kid out of the birthday money, I can tell you you're dead wrong. After riding the bus to work one day, I stepped off and saw some 8-year-old kid walk by me reading a copy of Game Informer. When I walked into the store, the MOD was laughing how he got a subscription, reserve, and new sale out of the poor kid. There's no rules against pressuring kids into resos and subs, other than the fact that the parent could potentially come in 5 minutes later to yell at us for steamrolling their kid. In fact, the only reason GameStop doesn't buy games from minors anymore is because some lady sued the company after she found out her kid was told to throw away his games. So to all you parents out there that made the mistake of to buy a GameStop gift card for your child, you should probably consider refunding it. Otherwise, they're going to come out of the store with a magazine, 3 reservations, and no games to play. Those of you that reserve your games all the time are probably saying it's unfair to bash GameStop for allowing people to reserve their games. You see, games usually have a standard price no matter where you go. Why not just put money down on the game so you have the game waiting there for you? I have no problem with reserves themselves, and in some cases they're practically mandatory. I'd also say it's important to reserve games made by publishers that use reservations to decide how many games are going to get made. Even though just about everywhere you go, Grand Theft Auto 4 will be $60 on release day, not all reserves are built equal. Some places give gift cards or coupons for free rentals with pre-orders. When Steam had the orange box available for reserve, it would give you a $5 discount when you pre-ordered. GameStop isn't the only place that does reserves, and a lot of places will do more than just hold your game. Why should you settle for less? You say you don't care about the bonuses, and you just like the convenience of not having to jump from store to store. You also like reserving collector's editions. True, I used to reserve my games at EB all the time before they got violated to hell and back by GameStop. The thing is, at GameStop, your game isn't all that guaranteed to be there. Something employees never mention is that GameStop doesn't hold reserves forever. Well, they can't keep that copy of Cats in stock for the rest of eternity. But at least GameStop holds their game for a month, right? Nope. 2 weeks? Guess again. 7 days? Nah, try 2 days. Look at the bottom of your reservation receipt in the really tiny ass writing. It says that GameStop will only hold your game for 48 hours, and that's if they even bother holding your game at all. It's been linked that GameStop has instructed its employees not to bother holding games during the GTA 4 launch, and I can tell you personally that I saw it happen during the Halo 3 launch. Some stores have tried to hold their games longer for their customers because nobody likes telling a pissed off customer that somebody sold their Rock Band set. But if the district manager hears that you put the customer's needs ahead of the company's, he'll come down on you like a ton of bricks. Don't be fooled. GameStop's reserves and subscriptions are not for the benefit of the customer. They're designed to keep you returning to the store either by making you commit to spending more money or by making you think that you're saving money. It's all just a way to keep your money in the store and out of the hands of their competitors. If you think I have my tinfoil hat on too tight, I'm just repeating what the district manager said. That we should be pushing subscriptions and reservations so we become the only place they shop at. Even when GameStop has sales, it's always some bullshit like get 10% more on your trades when you buy a $400 used system. The deals on new stuff are typically like Black Friday 2007 when they sold Shadow the Hedgehog new for $10. If you shop around, you'll get much more than you would by putting up with GameStop. Game Crazy holds their reservations for a much more reasonable 7 days, and they match trade-ins even though they typically beat GameStop. Play and Trade does price matching, which usually isn't needed, and they do system repairs. When I last visited Best Buy, they didn't make you pay full price for product they opened. Circuit City also has a discount card, but unlike GameStop, it actually works on new games. You also want to take a look at non-electronic stores because they tend to move their games to clearance a lot faster. You'd probably never think about getting games at Sears, but they had Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix for $10 when my store had the game used for $40 with no case and booklet. You'll definitely want to check out mom and pop places because there was a place nearby that adjusted my PS2 to play imported games. A lot of stores are really putting in a lot of effort into undercutting GameStop, and there's so many deals you'll miss out on by not shopping around. You may say shopping around isn't worth the effort, but saving $25 or $30 is nothing to huff at. $25 is enough to fill up my car. Well, at least it used to be. Tune in for the final supersized episode to see what working at a GameStop is really like. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go limey-proof my house.
I capture blood under my feet. Wisdom sees is in her veins. She bleeds green blood and God we need. Oh no.
Having now berated 4 parts of the GameStop business model, my plagiaristic rant wouldn't be complete without the missing 5th part of GameStop's model, which constitutes treating your employees like reusable toilet paper. Now my story goes, I once got a job at Best Buy working in the computer department, and it was a pretty good place to work. Sure, the work was hard, the customers could be bitchy at times, but the pay was good and the discount kicked ass. This wasn't to last because one of the higher-ups gave out hours like they were Skittles, ended up overspending on labor, and the store had to lay people off. I wasn't exactly top tier when it came to sales, so Best Buy ended up giving me the boot. Due to the fact that I'd gotten attached to having money, I decided to apply at the EB Games I always used to shop at. Like many of the people that apply there, I eagerly pursued a job at the retailer because I had loved games as far back as I could remember, and I figured it would be great working at a place that sells video games. I managed to get the job fairly easily due to my previous experience in retail. Little did I know that I got a job that paid worse than working as a transvestite prostitute, and had me jam worthless and overpriced merchandise down people's throats. A lot of people for some reason think that GameStop is some sort of dream job, judging by the fact that there was always an enormous stack of applications that just ended up getting thrown in the trash. It's about time these people found out that working at GameStop is like getting the world's longest prostate exam from Shaquille O'Neal. When you start out at GameStop, one of the first things you'll most likely be doing is organizing all the games on the walls. This aspect of the job is almost like being Sisyphus. I say almost because even with the cruel fate Sisyphus was stuck with, he still wouldn't trade places with a GameStop employee. Even small GameStops have loads and loads of games, and having to spend roughly 6 eternities alphabetizing them, only to have it all go to shit the moment you turn around is probably one of the most mind-numbing experiences you'll ever have. Lots of retail stores have you do tedious organizing, but it's not just the sheer volume of games you'll have to alphabetize that'll make you want to jump into a giant blender. Customers have the irritating habit of grabbing a bunch of games they have no intention of buying and dumping them in the middle of the section you're working on when they leave. You can expect to be alphabetizing the used PS2 section when you come upon a game you can't seem to find. You'll search the entire section, then the rest of the damn store, only to find that it was placed in the Wii section by a careless customer. It doesn't help that GameStop sticks games sold to them without a case in a generically labeled box, instead of taking a few pennies to print out some decent box art. This means you'll be looking for a game in a pile of cases that look exactly the same except for the tiny text on the price label and the illegibly scribbled name on the cover. On top of that, most of your coworkers don't give a royal shit about keeping everything organized and just cram games wherever. The people working the counter will have to put some games out, and you best believe it will be one of the games that belong on the top, causing you to have to shift every game down one by brother fucking one. Then there's the fact that customers act like you're invisible when you're working. There will be times when you're in the middle of alphabetizing a certain section when one of the customers will start picking at it. Instead of, asking us to get the game for them because we know where everything goes, we don't want to get our work messed up. Some customers are considerate enough not to interfere with your work, but that moment you look away, what they typically do is instantly mathematically calculate the best place to jam cases to send all your work straight to hell. The ultimate futility in trying to keep everything organized is the moment you finally do put every case in its place, a customer will come up to you and ask you where the Xbox 360 games are at. And you'll point over there at that giant wall that's in plain sight with the Xbox display boxes, tons of 360 games, and a giant sign that says Xbox 360. That could only get your attention more if Bill Gates had his booth set up there. Then you'll turn around to find that wall that you just finished has yet again been recently hit by a stampede of sexually frustrated bulls. The other place you're likely to start is at the counter processing games sold to GameStop. This involves putting on labels, gutting, and filing the games. On a good day this will be a relatively painless process, but there's always some wrench that gets thrown into the system. There will be days when people literally bring in duffel bags with games that they certainly didn't steal. Once the person at the register is done processing the amount of games, the label printer will start printing all the price labels and ID labels you need. If you're fortunate, it'll finish sometime within the next century. If you're in this situation, consider yourself lucky because it gets even worse when you show up to your shift and you're the one expected to clean up the mess that's been festering all damn day. You'll start out on your quest to tame the beast of scratched up games when you'll grab a stack of games with no corresponding tags, causing you to have to sift through the piles to see where they put all the labels. Once you find where they put all the stickers, you'll start looking through strings of labels, each of which are roughly the circumference of Mars. You'll navigate through the web of stickers only to have the guy at the register tell you that the stack you're holding actually returns and you'll have to make stickers for them later. You'll grab the nearest string of labels and it'll turn out the corresponding pile had to be a stack of games with no case. You'll have to find a blank case and generic insert, which is another adventure in itself because the supply drawers are as fucked up as a Cub Scout after a trip to Neverland. You'll go to the printer to print the generic cover, but you don't get to tell the printer to print. You sweet talk it and hope it's in a good mood and maybe, just maybe, it'll get around to printing within the next hour. Once you put the labels on the case, you'll find that you'll have to put the game away in the drawer in alphabetical order. This may sound simple, but GameStop has an annoying tendency to hire people that are alphabetically challenged. It'd be one thing if you found the occasional Onimusha in the middle of the case section, but the drawers have a mind of their own and they refuse to obey the English alphabet. If you complain that the drawers are a complete clusterfuck, guess who's going to have to clean them up? This process is further aggravated by the fact that games are mislabeled in the wrong sleeve or completely in the wrong section. Just when you finally manage to finish filing all those games, there absolutely has to be an additional amount to for the games that just got traded in. By the time you have everything in the store absolutely immaculate, corporate just took another bong hit and they'll send down an order saying they want everything done differently, meaning you have to redo every motherfucking game in the store. Before you start, I know full well it isn't unreasonable for a retailer to try to keep their stores looking nice. My problem is, all this effort GameStop employees go through is about as pointless as trying to lick clean a used tampon. The stores always have the distinctive GameStop smell of 1,000 sweaty nerds. There's always trash on the floor, and I've personally seen partially chewed food left on the shelves by dipshits incapable of using the trash cans. These items are usually the cause of the mosaic of stains you see in the carpet, along with a known case of children relieving themselves in the middle of the store. The game cases are cracked and have Kool-Aid stains or worse. I've seen collector's editions left out open on the floor, and GameStop expects us to sell them at full price with the booklet missing and the case falling apart. The bathrooms have the type of stench you could feel on your skin, and that's especially gross considering smaller stores keep their systems in the bathroom. There are no janitors hired at GameStop, and there's no way we're going to keep you clean for the shit pay. When you make it through your first shift, you'll have to do a pocket check. Before I tell you what a pocket check is, let me emphasize what I'm about to say is absolutely not exaggerated in any way. A pocket check is something you do at the end of your shift where you pull out your side pockets, you pull out your back pockets, you hitch up your pant legs to show your socks, and you do a 360-degree turn while somebody looks to make sure you haven't stolen anything. If you have a jacket or bag with you, they look through those too to make sure you don't have anything there either. After they're done inspecting you, they sign in the record book that you're clear and they make you sign confirming that you were inspected. You have to do this dance of humiliation after every single motherfucking shift. After you finish your day of fruitless organizing being treated like a criminal just short of a cavity search, you'll probably want to pick up your schedule for next week. When you start out, you can expect 3 hours per week, maybe 4 if you're lucky. GameStop always pays minimum wage, so this means your first paycheck can be close to $30 for 2 weeks' work. People for some reason think that GameStop employees must have tons of games. The problem is, in order to acquire video games, you need money, and that's something GameStop just doesn't give you. Still, GameStop isn't happy with giving you practically no pay. Now they have to curb stomp you while you're down by not paying you with an actual check. What they do instead is give you a ComData card. A ComData card is like a debit card tied to a bank account that GameStop signs you up for when you're hired. Instead of paying you directly, GameStop deposits your money in the ComData account, and then you have to get your money through ComData. Unlike a real debit card, the ComData card doesn't seem to work anywhere I want to use it. When you want to use your money, of course you don't get to keep all of it. Using the card, you have to put up with fees, and ComData seems to find whatever opportunity they can to jam them up your ass. If you want to get actual cash, you'll have to go to the ATM. But the machines around here charge an additional $2 per transaction, and you'll only be getting $20 of the money you earned. You can sidestep ComData by signing up for direct deposit, but GameStop throws a fucking fit when you try. The first time I tried signing up, I was told to wait 2 to 4 weeks for it to go through. Then 3 months later, I tried signing up once more, and yet again, no more luck. The third time was the charm. I was finally able to get my money without having to pay for it. I did the math and spent the remaining balance so I'd be done with this fucking card. But after I quit, I checked my bank account to find that GameStop had to give me one last lash by giving me my last payday on this stupid card. I'm not sure if GameStop decided to use the system because ComData gives a good head, or because they get off on employees jumping through fiery hoops. I do know that ComData is making bank with 5,000 stores worth of employees having to go through this shit. There's always employees complaining how they still have money they can't get off their account, but I'm sure ComData is happy to hold on to their money for them. What I'm not sure of is how legal this system is. Really, making employees have to pay money in order to pick up cash they worked for from an account they never wanted? So if you're a lawyer watching this right now, remember that GameStop is worth billions, and not to let opportunities pass you by. After spending some time on the wall and at the counter, they'll get you started working on the register. The register is pretty much the make or break part of your job because this is where you get your numbers. Your numbers determine how many hours you get, so you'll have to make sure to harass the customers if you want to get more than 3 hours a week. Numbers are based off percentages, which is why you might have noticed that GameStop employees like doing everything in one transaction. You're expected to get 1 subscription for every 10 transactions and approximately 1 reservation for every 6.5 transactions. Meet your goals and you'll get scheduled more often, as it only makes sense to put a top salesman forward. Don't expect any commission though, because you'll get paid minimum wage whether you get 3 reservations or 30 reservations. The only reward for working hard at GameStop is more work. When they teach you to use the registers, they always teach you how to take reservations, subscriptions, and trade-ins first. Your numbers add towards the store's total, and since the manager is responsible for the store's performance, they want to have you adding to their percentages ASAP. They didn't teach me how to do refunds and reserve cancellations until weeks after I started using the register. You'd figure GameStop would cover all this in the first day's training, but that's the thing, GameStop gives no real training time. GameStop uses the throw you in the water philosophy, and just starts you out having you learn as you go. GameStop's problem with properly training its employees is that it digs into its profits. They can get away with skipping on the training because if you don't learn fast enough or don't get good numbers, for every available position there's 80 fuckwits waiting to replace you because they want a job where they can play Madden and Smash Brothers all day. GameStop figures if you go through enough retards, you'll eventually find someone who doesn't have the IQ and work ethic of an enema bag, and then they can overwork that poor bastard. I found that managers tend to be creative when telling you what the policies are. They tend to make up rules that help the store's numbers, like not being able to cancel a reservation without a receipt or not being able to give back games that got traded in. Nobody cares what you do, just as long as it produces numbers and doesn't get them in trouble with the DM. If you ever had your brother steal your games to get cash at GameStop, the register has a way to get them back. If whoever's working says no, it's because trade-ins help their numbers and determines how many hours the store gets. Just demand the DM's number and they'll suddenly be more helpful. If you want to cancel all your GameStop reserves, ask for them to print out a reserve list of the games under your phone number so they can't lie about what you have on reserve. When you want them to stop pestering you into reserving, just say you have it reserved at another store because they have no way of verifying it. Lastly, the easiest way to fend off subscriptions is by saying you left the card at home. There's no national database they can check, and if they can't get the +1 on their numbers, they don't care. One of the most frequently voiced complaints I hear about GameStop is that their employees know as much about video games as an Amish infant with Down syndrome. When you're working at GameStop, you're not paid to be a gaming encyclopedia, you're paid to sell. There's not much difference between a GameStop employee and a used car salesman, except maybe a used car salesman probably makes a decent living. Used car salesmen know nothing about the cars they're selling. Their job is to sound like they know what they're talking about to get you to spend. GameStop is also about knowing how to effectively bullshit the customer to prop up your numbers. I've seen employees that don't know what Xbox Live is and managers that flat out lie to the customers, but they get the numbers because they know what to say. You can tell where GameStop's priorities are when a peppy, well-endowed girl walks into the store wanting a job application because you could practically see the manager's eyes light up. Not just because they now have some eye candy around the store, but because these girls can easily squeeze out numbers out of all the geeks that'll do anything for female attention. GameStop doesn't put any effort into making sure its employees know about video games either. You know that section at the GameStop that has the 360 titles? Microsoft paid to use that space. Sony paid for its PlayStation sections, and Nintendo paid for its Wii and DS sections. These companies also own the respective kiosks you see, and the big three have representatives that look after the kiosks and occasionally sabotage each other's sections. The reps also have the duty to keep employees informed about present and upcoming products. Some of them have presentations where they not only train you, but they also give out swag like posters, games, and in some cases entire systems. I've been there when the reps asked if it was possible to have a presentation, but they always get told no. Having presentations means giving out hours, and that's something GameStop just doesn't do. Another thing the reps do is maintain an official guide folder about the company's products. It has tons of information and should cover just about anything a customer could ask. I never even found out about this book until months after I started working at GameStop, and this is probably news to a lot of employees watching right now. Never has the manager gone over with us or updated us when there was a change made to it. It's not your job as a GameStop employee to give the right product information. It's to say what you need to in order to make the sale. The pressure to get numbers comes at you from every side. Secret shoppers get sent out to verify that you properly hound the customers. When you call GameStop to find out what time the store closes and the employee tries to pitch to you over the phone, it's because the DM will have people call us and he'll come after us if we don't sell over the phone. Something else I thought was asked backwards is how selling a new product hurts your numbers. It happens where people ask if we have a game and the employee will lie about it to pad their use percentage. Because of GameStop's numeric fetish causing them to put sales over game knowledge, there's no dedicated text around, meaning there's typically nobody qualified to check if merchandise is functioning properly. Don't worry about it though, because GameStop just makes you do it instead. Being a retail job, there are customers you're going to have to deal with. You'll find that a large portion of GameStop customers act like they came straight off the short yellow bus. Now, difficult customers are part of any retail job, but everybody at my store had experience at other places, and they all agree that GameStop customers are legendarily bitchy and retarded. First, there's the customers that can't pass 5th grade math and start arguing with you because they have to pay $59.94 on a game they reserved. Then there's the people that act like they have a fatal allergy to inconvenience. A customer will come up to you with a case for a game. You'll look through the drawers and find that an employee misplaced it. You ought to apologize, saying the game has been lost, and they'll start shrieking false advertisement. The demented rants of false advertisement get exponentially irritating when people bitch that we have Wii display boxes like it's our fault they started looking for weeks until the holiday rush. Other times you'll be frantically looking for a customer's game through a drawer that looks like it's been hit by a hurricane, when they'll storm out the store making snide comments because you took longer than the 3 seconds they're willing to wait. Then there's always some dumb prick yelling from the back of the store saying that the line's too long on the second day before Christmas. GameStop seems to attract a lot of people who spend most of their time some sort of parallel universe where Paris Hilton is a physics professor. They'll argue with you because you told them nobody made Halo for the PS2, saying they just played it on the PS2 before they came to the store. Then there's the teenagers you have to put up with who will mooch off the Guitar Hero display hour after fucking hour. Fortunately, we were a smart store. Like any smart store, we know just to turn off the kiosks and say they're broken. The only time we kept the systems on is when we knew the DM was coming. Then there's the geeks. Oh God, the geeks. They dedicate whatever time they spend outside of their parents' basement to tell us how much they think they know about video games. I actually saw one go up to the girl working the register, already trying to stifle his laughter, and asked if a game had giant enemy crabs and real-time weapon changing. The neckbeard was politely reminded that it was no longer 2006, and his companion actually said pwned. Among the people who don't know where the internet ends and real life begins, there are the GameStop roadies, a particular breed of geek whose only form of social contact comes from GameStop employees. They hang around the store looking for the next chance to annoy you and think it's perfectly okay to start talking to us when we're with another customer. No, we don't want to hear how many gamer points you have. No, we don't care what level your WoW character is at. And we definitely don't want to hear who you say will win the console wars. The worst customers of them all easily have to be the parents who constantly remind us how minimal the requirements are to breed. It amazes me how much parents today simply cannot be bothered to look after their kids. Whenever a 7-year-old GTA fan came up to me with an M-rated game, I told him his parents need to buy it for him. The little guy blazes out the store trying to minimize the time it will take for him to start killing hookers. Then his mom steps in the store for a millisecond saying it's okay for him to buy whatever. I chase after her to remind her that a 7-year-old can't buy M-rated games. She'll then have the nerve to glare a hole through me because I forced her to take 2 minutes out of her precious shopping time to do some basic parenting. Oh, and you better believe you're gonna have to be a babysitter for these irresponsible parents. There are people out there that think because it's a video game store they can use GameStop as a playground and you'll look after their kids for free. At least the children of these neglectful wastes of oxygen tend to be well behaved, which leads me to believe that stupid skips a generation. On one occasion, a 7-year-old was walking aimlessly through the store when he was asked where his mom was. He said she was shopping in another store in the mall, so one of the GAs went over there because if anything happens to the kid while he's under our watch, we'll all get in deep shit. When the GA got there, she was nowhere to be found. 4 hours later, the cow waltzes back into the store and the MOD starts going off on her to make sure she never pulls this bullshit again. The neglectful bovine actually says it's not her fault if something happens to him and it's our job to look after him. The employee at the register starts looking for the number for social services and only then does the bitch change her tune. The shit-flavored cherry on top is the fact that the customer is always right even when they're being a total cockbag. At any retail store, you're gonna have to be nice to customers when they're being illogical twats, but the goal is usually to explain the situation calmly and to hold your ground. At GameStop, if they throw a big enough tantrum, they'll get whatever they want. Some piece of inbred trash with alcohol in his breath went into the store grumbling how he got ripped off because he didn't get a free game from a sale that nobody told him about and indeed never existed. We repeatedly tried to explain to him, but 20 minutes later the asshole still wouldn't stop, so we just took the hit to our inventory and gave him the damn game to get him to leave. Why didn't we kick this worthless douchebag out the store? Corporate orders us to give in to their demands. The fact is, customers make stupid demands all the time and we'll then have to set them straight. But if they complain long enough and make enough bullshit claims, corporate will reward their childish behavior. The store manager might refuse, but the customers can just get what they want from the DM because the store managers have no real power. The regional managers order the district managers to do whatever it takes to appease the customers, and they do this because they have no real contact with the customers. The reasoning behind giving it to customers is the conventional wisdom in retail that if a customer has a bad experience, they'll tell their friends, and all those people would tell their friends, causing a ripple effect that'll kill business. But companies that aren't run by THC dispensers know that if a customer is a rectal douche when they're shopping, they're a douche everywhere else, then people never listen to them. At least you get to have some fun bashing the retards when they leave the store, and a lot of the time the customers like to join in on the festivities. This next paragraph is dedicated to those shitheads out there that think that saying, "You just lost their business," or "We're never shopping here again," after whining like the brat you are, means anything. We do not care. It's not intimidating, it's just fucking annoying. If you don't shop at GameStop, we get paid shit. If you buy everything in the damn store, we still get paid shit. We do not come up with the policies, even when we think they're bullshit, and we hate enforcing them. We're not the ones that set the trade-ins, and we don't decide the sale prices. We hate having to pressure people for numbers. And unless you were a nice customer who reserves frequently and subscribes, you won't be missed. If you bitch to the DM when we can prove we were right, we will not get in trouble. You never shopping at the store again just means one less fuckwit we have to put up with. Yes, GameStop still has the ability to make working there even worse with a monthly visitor known as GameStop TV. This bile is played on the store TV and can best be described as Game Informer Live, seeing as it's crammed with ads is made by people that know dick about video games. With this show, GameStop miraculously manages to one-up themselves when it comes to making shitty products. First, they bring in a pair of hosts, which usually consists of some idiot with Super Saiyan levels of gel in his hair, some spray-tan blonde bimbo with her botched boob job hanging out, and an occasional non-Aryan thrown into the mix. The casting director for these videos always makes sure that the hosts have the combined IQ and charisma of a used roll of toilet paper. After the communications majors finish their opening yammering, the trailer for the next SpongeBob game is shown. Having allocated 4 minutes of video game related material, they cram the rest of the show with as many ads and music videos as they can fit on a DVD. The DVD then gets mailed to the stores and gets played on an endless loop in a way scientifically designed to drive employees to a murderous rampage. It got particularly twitch-inducing when somebody decided that Stick With You by the Pussycat Dolls was a good video to play at GameStop. For those of you that don't remember the Pussycat Dolls, they were an all-girl music group consisting of pretend strippers. They spawned the track Don't Show, which made a lot of money as an anthem for conceited college girls everywhere. Their financial success gave them the illusion they had any sort of musical talent and caused them to follow up with this manufactured ear molestation. At least the TV was never on unless we knew the DM was coming, because nobody ever pays attention to the damn thing. Whenever I walked into a store that actually played it was always on some 8-inch TV in the corner where nobody could see or hear it. We usually just put whatever trailer we found on the net and had it play silently on an endless loop. The store would only put in the regular DVD when the DM came over until we found out he never pays attention to it. There are people who actually pay money to have their ads on GameStop TV. Maybe the rats at the dump might enjoy them. Nobody pays attention to all the marketing that's put in the store either. When the Slim PSP came out, there was a huge motherfucking sign put over the register in plain sight that detailed all the different packages and features. You couldn't buy anything in the store without it being inches from your face. Still, whenever I talked about the new PSP, they said they never heard of it. A lot of time is spent putting up the ads, and a lot of money has to have been spent to purchase the space, but the effort would be better spent making water not be wet. Not too long ago, the Nielsen Media Research Group did a study that GameStop TV actually helped sales and provided some sketchy stats to back it up. I'm sure GameStop appreciated the study, which was likely instrumental in scoring a deal with CBS. It's actually kind of sad knowing that CBS is spending so much money on thousands of blank screens. Even with everything that happens, you'll still find GameStop employees that like their job. That's because they're new. For the first couple of shifts, there isn't much pressure to get numbers. They tend to work with enthusiasm because they're happy to have a job and honestly believe that what they're selling are good deals. Then you can slowly see how having to jump after numbers like a trained seal and resisting the urge to drag and punch customers starts to get to them. People that were once so cheery and energetic start to get incrementally more angry and depressed with each passing week. I like to call it the GameStop effect. GameStop keeps piling on the bullshit by not giving you any breaks, which, by the way, is illegal in the state of California. GameStop will say they comply with the state's labor laws, but in my 13 months working there, I could have counted all my breaks on one hand. The managers were ordered to tell everybody to take their breaks at store meeting, but of course nobody actually got their breaks because it was just corporate's attempt to absolve GameStop of any legal liability. Another sadistic fetish GameStop has to find new ways to cut hours. The most shameless cut was after the Game Day sales GameStop had in the summer of last year. The sale was one of those rare opportunities where GameStop is kind enough to give you discounts on new products, such as UMD Movies, Sonic Heroes, and King of Fighters 2006. Somehow the sale failed to bring in new customers. According to an insider, and by insider I mean a random GameStop employee I talked to on the internet, the stockholders panicked and GameStop cheaped out on labor to cut costs. To placate the employees, they told everybody it was a glitch in Chronos, the labor scheduling software which happened to be programmed by a monkey fetus who just took up VB6. The employees bought it because it's totally plausible that a piece of software that decides to have a GA open the store on their first day would make such a grave error. If you manage to live through a year, you'll have a review and be eligible for a raise. All your shuffling through piles of games until you turn dizzy, all your refusal to understand the word no, all your tolerating of brain damaged meatheads will finally be rewarded with a grand 21-cent raise. And that's for people eligible for promotion. The highest raise I've ever heard of was 25 cents, and to this day many employees consider it to be an urban legend. If you consistently surpass your goals and are so shameless you tried to get a blind deaf grandma on a fixed income to subscribe, you'll get promoted to SGA and get a big fat $1 raise. Naturally, with the boost in wages comes more work. As management level, you'll now be opening and closing the store, making sure all the money's counted, all the games are processed, all the higher priced stock hasn't been stolen, and the store is spotless when you leave. This process might be remotely possible if it weren't for the fact that you're scheduled 30 minutes to take the store from shitfest to mirror shine like you're Superman on crack. In order to finish everything you need to do, you will be working off the clock. I'm sure you say there's no way in hell you'll work for free, but think of it this way. Your options are do as much as you can until you're scheduled to leave and then have the district manager disapprove, or you can keep working until you get everything done and have the DM not pop your man cherry. GameStop will officially say they forbid working off the clock, but this goes directly against the fact that you're expected to do 8 hours worth of work in a 4-hour closing shift. I have to admit, it's a pretty clever way to get people to work for free, which again is incredibly illegal without directly asking for it. Continue doing your new management duties like you're some sort of masochistic freak and you'll get promoted to ASM. You'll now get treated to working 40 hours a week, having to account for every game in the store and all the other things a manager's supposed to do, only you won't be getting any credit for it. Once you prove you're the type of person that will work for meager wages when you're not working for free and you would throw your own mother into a meat grinder for med-selling a subscription, you'll get a chance to become a manager in the next store that has an opening. All your hard work and mastery of bullshitting the customer will pay off when you spend the rest of your life being the DM's fuckpiece and being paid less than the smug junior college students who work tech support. Part of being an SGA, ASM, or GM, if something happens while you're in charge, it's on you. If some brat decided it's a good idea to climb the 360 kiosk when the GAs are too busy having a nose-baking contest, you're gonna get yelled at. If one of the employees decided to start hitting on the customers, the DM is going after you. Having to put up with the occasional stupid employee would be tolerable if they were actually occasional. GameStop is an absolute magnet for the type of worker that was given lead-flavored baby formula. When I started out, I was worried of the fact that I could be laid off at any time. I had trouble getting numbers, I plain sucked at organizing games, and I would only get 2 shifts a week at the most. Then as time went on and new people came in, I learned the sheer fact that I actually showed up to work, did what I was told, and was capable of wiping my own ass put me miles ahead of almost all the people that GameStop hired. Now, I tried to be nice to new people because I remember how tough it was learning to get numbers and having to deal with corporate's ass-backwards policies. But almost all new employees spend all 5 brain cells trying to prove how worthless they are. First, there are the ones that are shocked to find out when you don't play video games all day and are actually expected to work. When you give them a simple task like putting away games in alphabetical order, they'll just shove them in the drawer like you're as oblivious as a guard from Metal Gear Solid. Then there's the 23-year-old high school girls who can't be pried away from their precious cell phones. The line will be going out the door. You're the only one working the register, the customers are getting more pissed off by the second, and she's busy texting someone else who also peaked at 17. Expect to get the ones with no people skills who won't talk to a customer unless they're reserving. They'll start making sex jokes to kids and absolutely must inform every customer about their superior taste in games. They're often former GameStop roadies who get hired to their dream job. Having no social lives of their own, they tend to hang around the store even when they're not working to try and invent new ways to be irritating. Then there are the employees who end up becoming legends for their stupidity. There was a store that decided to put up markers for each letter of the alphabet so the customers could find the games easier. Instead of letters, they decided to use pictures, i.e. apple for A and cat for C. One of the employees decided to be cute and put men with an afro for N, and I don't mean Seth Rogen. If you're gonna be a racist dickhead, at least don't be a retarded racist dickhead. As you can imagine, with this type of work environment, most people don't stay for very long. My estimate is out of all the people GameStop hires, only about 1/3 stay for more than 3 months. 1/3 of the people that leave came from better jobs than leave knowing they can go work at someplace decent. The other third are the aforementioned birth defects that get fired for being incapable of breathing and alphabetizing simultaneously. This is even more in Comdata's pocket because I sincerely doubt they can put together the concept of a card having their money. GameStop also seems to have trouble holding on to people who have a shredded competence because managers leave constantly, realizing there are places that actually obey labor laws. This means the managing staff at just about any store changes constantly. I've had all sorts of managers ranging from nice to slave driver to special ed dropout. Revolving door management also means it's piss easy to get promoted to positions where they give you 12% more pay for double the work. Well, if this job sucks so much, why did I stay for over a year? Working at GameStop is like having to walk around with a toy car up your ass. As bad as it is, you'll eventually get used to it. On the GA level, at least the work wasn't terribly difficult, just monotonous, irritating, and soul-crushing. The best way I can describe being GA is like being forced to grind the world's worst RPG where all the enemies are worth a single experience point and you level down every other battle. You do get some benefits between rectal intrusions. You get first dibs on the pre-order bonuses that get sent in. If you reserved at GameStop and the employee tells you they're all over the special edition styles, it's because the employees had a contest to see who could fit the most up their nose. We also got a checkout system where you could rent games for free for 4 days. When I started, I was told that GameStop's policy is that you can only do that for used games, but of course I later found out that nobody enforces that rule. This explains why the discs are scratched up when the employee is trying to convince you to pay the new price for an open game. But really, these benefits are ultimately just M&Ms in an endless sea of sewage, because the only rewards for being a hard worker and staying loyal to GameStop are constant reminders telling you nothing more than a 6-digit ID number. The policies you have to follow are designed to make your job harder. For example, during the last week before Christmas, the stupids of the world decide to hold a convention at their nearest GameStop. Unfortunately, the convention goers are unable to figure out the concept of a line. So we have the store wanting to create signs to direct them, but corporate wouldn't let us. Along with corporate stupid policies, GameStop has a committee with the sole mission to find new corners to cut. The registers are computers with the processing power of a brain-dead tortoise. This really gets to be a problem. GameStop has those 10% trade-in boost deals, and people bring in truckloads of completely not stolen games. At the end of the transaction, the computer has to calculate the boost, and you'll be waiting there so the customer can get their $3 extra trade-in value just before bedtime. The electronics in the store have the habit of breaking if you look at them the wrong way. You will be dealing with the store packed like a can of sardines when the cartridge will throw a fit and stop working. The TV and DVD player GameStop TV is supposed to be shown off, so you should know how much it sucks because they'll stop working in a matter of weeks. Even at the managers convention that's attended by the store managers, district managers, regional managers, and everybody at the corporate level, they cut corners. The food served there was so bad, the moment people found out the brunch wasn't mandatory, they went to go buy brunch at the nearest buffet, officially breaking the 27th law of physics. You're not even safe working at GameStop. Whenever I walk into another store, I hear how yet another store in our district gave out its donation to the armed and dangerous. There was a store in the next district that not only got robbed, but the manager was also tied up and got his car stolen. There's even been multiple cases where the employee has been murdered on the job. When there was a string of robberies in our district, instead of giving us some decent surveillance equipment or a silent alarm, the only thing they gave us was a simple tip: don't be a hero. I have a feeling that's not going to be an effective deterrent. Then there's GameStop's selective policy enforcement. Employees have complained that people at management level violate GameStop's racism and sexual harassment policies. GameStop says they have zero tolerance policies, but they got nothing but a finger waved at them. That's right, put a dent in GameStop's profits and the DM takes your urethral virginity. But if you wave around a noose in your birthday suit, then nobody gives a shit. I guess it's only zero tolerance if somebody threatens to sue. Everything I told you was considering my store was a good store. We consistently perform, and the DM rarely got any complaints about us except from the occasional nut job. People told us that despite there being other EB Games and GameStops close by, they would go to our store because we actually knew stuff about video games and we would be helpful even if you didn't want to reserve. We were the exception to GameStop's notorious lack of customer service and work ethic. We complained to corporate wanting better working conditions, and you know what they said? You asked for the job. I wonder what else can be justified with that logic. I remember when I quit, some wasted jeans soccer mom wouldn't show up because their son managed to get a copy of Grand Theft Auto. Hey, I think it's perfectly legitimate to complain that a retailer broke state law and gave her 7-year-old the game and let them wantonly create human hood ornaments. What isn't justified is complaining when you were the one that bought it, the G that sold you warned you that it was rated M, but you were too damn busy being an incompetent parent to notice. My shift was over anyway. I was going to be damned if I was going to get yelled at for something someone else did that wasn't even wrong. I wrote up my letter of resignation and turned it in because I decided I'd rather be unemployed than work at GameStop for one more damn day. And then 4 days later, I got a new job. That same night, my roommate told me that a business next door to his dad's needed somebody for their office. I applied the next day and got called for an interview the day after that. 2 days later, I got offered the job. My new job is 2% handling phone calls, 2% typing stuff into Excel, 2% tech support, 2% backing up stuff onto a flash drive, 2% running basic errands, and 90% sitting on my ass and playing PS2 on the office TV. I get more games now than I did working at GameStop because I actually make good money and get my games from places that don't rip you off. If you're a GameStop employee watching this right now, why are you still working there? The pay is bad by Ethiopian standards, the work makes you want to jump into a pit, and you know GameStop wouldn't pay the cents a minute to call an ambulance for you. If you manage to keep your job at GameStop, you've proven you can work and you can sell even the most worthless crap. There are companies that actually value sales skills and will let you make more than what you currently make in a day in just pure commission. Oh wait, let me guess. You're going to start looking for a new job starting tomorrow. Yeah, how many times have you said that to yourself? Don't be another one of those people who say they're going to get a better job but end up working at GameStop when they're 40. Whenever a former GameStop employee walked into the store, I have yet to see them not come back better off and working at a place that pays better than an ASM. Even the ones that got fired for being fuckwits come back making more money. Make time tomorrow to go find a new job because the longer you wait to leave, the more money you lose by not having a better job. You can blame GameStop for treating you like deep-fried bull testicles, but you can only blame yourself for letting them treat you like that. And if you're somebody that still wants a job at GameStop, don't say you haven't been warned. You may be wondering why somebody would take 10 months of their life writing, copy-pasting, voice acting, and editing a video for free. My first reason is, you got it, petty revenge. GameStop used me like an asswipe for a year, and there's no way I'm letting them get away with it. Secondly, yes, I have entirely too much time on my hands. Thirdly, I'm highly motivated to stop this viral company from growing. GameStop has infected shopping centers in a way that would make Starbucks jealous. Is this the business we really want to have on every corner? Don't you wish you could go into a game store and buy a new game without having some tit try to convince you to pay $55 for a scratch game with no case that smells like it was owned by Cheech and Chong? Don't you wish you could have the employees understand the meaning of the word no when you say you don't want to reserve the next Nicktoons game? Isn't it about time you could go buy a game without being harassed into buying a magazine that would be better used to line the cage of a spider monkey with explosive diarrhea? Think about how much damage GameStop has done to gaming. GameStop didn't become the largest game retailer by providing a superior product. On the way to the top, of the companies they bought out have been violated in the ear. I used to go to EB Games all the time, and EBGames.com used to have guaranteed case and booklet with games purchased online. Thanks to GameStop, that's now considered a fucking luxury, along with not being pestered, knowledgeable employees, and all the other policies that benefited customers that got kicked in the head during the buyout. It's depressing going to EB Games now and seeing all the life sucked out of it. The employees at my EB always used to reminisce how things were better before the GameStop buyout. Now that GameStop bought themselves to the position of largest games retailer, they can do whatever the fuck they want. Now take a good look at how the developers are getting screwed. Whenever a top-selling game would come out, we would get tons for the launch and pretty much sell them all out. Within weeks, we would get a huge stack of them traded in, and when GameStop sells those used copies, the developers make no money off them. I would estimate anywhere from a quarter to a third of the copies of God of War 2 I saw sold were used. This is a shot in the dark here, but with thousands of GameStop-owned stores, I'm guessing this translates to thousands of copies being sold that the developers aren't seeing any money from. I wouldn't have such a problem with this if it weren't for the fact that the difference between GameStop's new and used price was only $5. It always amazed me when GameStop would get exclusive promos from the publishers, because to me that's like giving a car to the guy screwing your wife. But then again, the internet has taught me there are people into that sort of thing. With the game retail market the way GameStop wants it to be, it's nearly impossible for new developers to make any money. If you don't have money coming out your ass to make Halo 3 suppositories, you won't be able to get your name out to get people to reserve. When you finally do get your game published, it's GameStop's policy for the employees to do whatever they can to prevent you from making any money off of it. I'm not saying publishers should make games that self-destruct when you try to sell them to someone else. I don't think there's anything wrong with selling used games, because then it'd be much harder to get good games that are out of print. I don't think it's wrong to allow people to reserve, and there's nothing wrong with selling magazines. But there is something severely wrong with the way GameStop does it. Some people think that digital distribution is going to kill GameStop because we'll be getting all our media through the tubes. Online distribution is a great way to get unique content, but while wishing no offense to the follically challenged to believe this, remember there was a time when everybody thought we'd be driving rocket cars on the moon right now. Even if we do reach an age where we get everything from a broadband connection, do we really want GameStop to be our main option until then? Every time you buy from GameStop, that's exactly what you're saying, even if it's just a crappy Mad Catz controller. Waiting around for a Messiah isn't going to solve anything. The only thing that's going to kill GameStop is for us to start speaking with our wallets. So where exactly am I going with all this? I'd like to ask you viewers out there for two favors. You're probably thinking that the first one is not to shop at GameStop. While that would cheer me up quite a bit, that's really just curing the symptom instead of curing the problem. Even if GameStop went out of business tomorrow, another company with a nasal fetish would spring up in its place. Our shopping in GameStop says to other companies, if you want to make billions, you do it by giving people piss-poor products and service. It's part of a disturbing trend of McDonaldization in American business, where instead of focusing on quality and making the best product and service for the customer, they go for quantity instead and try to jam as much shit as they can down our throats. They can get away with this because of the ignorance of the average consumer who doesn't know they're being ripped off. The only way to stop ourselves from being exploited is to be informed consumers. Companies like GameStop can't survive in a market where consumers know their options and look for the best deals. My second request is, no, not sign a petition, but to inform others. Whenever you see a good deal, a lesser-known quality retailer, or conversely some company trying to pull some bullshit shenanigans, let other people know so they can become better consumers. GameStop's best customers aren't hardcore gamers. They're gaming illiterate soccer moms and casual gamers who enjoy the occasional game of Madden, Call of Duty, or Rock Band. But if they knew what hardcore gamers knew, this would swiftly change. Keeping others informed goes double for employees because they know the workings of their companies better than anyone. If you tell people the bullshit you see as an insider, companies like GameStop won't be able to get away with $45 markups and treating their employees like a butt plug. It's kind of funny how the employees at my store were always talking about organizing a class action lawsuit for all the flagrant labor violations, but nobody actually did anything. Hopefully now the lawyers will come to them, and you employees out there should probably start documenting the specific violations you see so you get more money. I know there's people watching right now who say I have no right to bitch because their job sucks so much more. I acknowledge that there's worse jobs than GameStop, as anybody that's worked in the food service industry can tell you. Then why don't you tell us about all the shit you see going on? Thanks to the internet, anybody can blow the whistle on companies that exploit. Audio editors like Audacity are free, Windows Movie Maker is free, microphones and headsets are dirt cheap, and YouTube will distribute your rent for free. For you disgruntled bank employees, I'd personally like to know how to get my bank to stop trying to get me into debt. You don't have to copy-paste together 3,000 frames, you can just put your image with your recorded voice. In fact, I'm going to start doing that more now because this video was supposed to be out over 2 months ago. I can't help but wonder what GameStop's reaction is going to be if this video gets a decent amount of attention. At first they'll do the standard corporate deny trick. Of course that's not going to hold water because when the lawyers give the employees the choice between a cash settlement and saving the asses of the people that took their ability to walk right, they're going to sing like like canaries. GameStop will try to say that the violations are against our policies, but policies do no good unless you actually make an effort to enforce them. There were no secret shoppers to make sure that stolen merchandise wasn't traded in, and there were no phone calls to make sure that we got our breaks. You just know GameStop will start a commercial campaign. They'll show a clean store with quality used games, a helpful multi-ethnic staff, and testimony from satisfied customers. It'll be kind of like how McDonald's started running all those retarded ads for salads when Super Size Me came out. GameStop's commercials will probably highlight prices from bullshit comparisons, as though being cheaper for a few items compensates for hundreds, and also cherry-popping markups. Expect them to promote deals that don't make a damn difference and are meant to sell games they're having trouble getting rid of anyway. I can see GameStop treating a customer like royalty, or half-assing an employee's sting so they can play it over and over again to make people think that's the type of standard service GameStop gives. GameStop will probably try to bribe its employees. I expect something transparent like $10 gift cards instead of, decent wages. When employees claim their gift cards, they'll likely have to sign a paper to verify they got them, and also reserves GameStop the right to neuter them with a rusty spoon if they talk negatively about the company. Here's to hoping that most of the employees will see through this, which is pretty wishful thinking. I can see GameStop countering with YouTubes of employees being forced into making the company look good. There will be a handful of legitimate videos from employees in denial of the fact that their job sucks. They'll try to justify the absurd markups by saying, it's a business. I wasn't aware that profits justify ripping people off. Maybe I should drop out of college and switch career paths. These employees will also try to justify the markups by saying new games have low profit margins. While publishers should do more for retailers, I'm going to have to break it to these employees that GameStop isn't exactly having trouble putting baby meat on the table. I'm sure there's GameStop employees that genuinely like their jobs, but as you already shown all your friends, there are also girls who like eating shit and puking into each other's mouths. Do be advised, if you decide to blow the whistle on GameStop, you'll have to watch out for GameStop's Internet Goon Squad, which some people like to call the GameStopo. They're dedicated to scouring the internet looking for employees that sell stuff on eBay or say things that make GameStop look bad. Come to think of it, whenever somebody posts a GameStop bashing thread, there's always those same posters that jump to the company's defense, but I don't think I've ever seen this happen on forums that aren't open to the public. Don't worry too much about the GameStop because they aren't exactly bright, as in they've actually private messaged employees on a forum expecting them to reply with their name and store number. They're probably watching this right now. Hey guys, remember me? From the other night, I was the one fucking your mother, specifically number 42 in line. I do expect GameStop to post a statement nitpicking trivial stuff as though a minor inconsistency discredits the whole series. They might try to say what I saw were isolated incidents that only happened in my store, district, or region. That won't fly because I've worked at multiple GameStop stores during my stay at the company. Since my store was one of the few that had competent employees, the other managers would repeatedly try to poach us. I have to say, there's bound to be a few outdated facts. It's been 6 months since I've worked there. Even then, I've talked with employees from different stores in different districts, and I've chatted with employees from other regions. It's all the same fucking story. Oh, and if you dipshits honestly think the stores look the same the days you're not coming in to inspect them, or that we don't dismember you with our minds when you come in to review the store, you're twice as retarded as I think you are. I expect GameStop to run commercials where they say, we've changed. I've kept in touch with GameStop employees, and yes, GameStop has changed. Stores are now rating how many complaints they get, which is just fucking stupid. Instead of trying to improve customer service by running a business that gives quality products and service, they fall back on the same numeric bullshit. By just counting the complaints instead of actually listening what the complaints have to say, people can easily make up some stupid story and threaten to call the DM to get whatever they want. Stores are now also rating how many employees leave the company to try to put a lid on the obscene turnover rate. I assume this is to try to keep experienced workers because they get better sales. If it's also to make managers more picky to prevent them from hiring stupids, I can tell you from my first visit to GameStop in 6 months that it isn't working. GameStop is also now focusing more on overall sales instead of the standard numbers. So instead of bugging you to buying just used games, reserves, and subscriptions, they'll ceaselessly try to sell you whatever they can. GameStop will probably change some of their policies, but what they won't change is the fact that their business is fundamentally based on giving people peanuts for their games, selling them back a ridiculous markup, and making underpaid, overworked employees pester customers into buying things they don't need. In closing, I'd like to officially apologize for wasting 90 minutes of your time. Hopefully you have at least walked away a more informed consumer. Now, when I say be informed, I don't mean you have to go do hours of research before deciding between nacho cheese and Cool Ranch. Just doing a quick Google search should give you at least an idea how much something should cost when you go to shop. With Google and sites like Cheap Ass Gamer that allow you to communicate with other informed consumers, you really have no excuse not to know better than to shop at GameStop. I'd also like to say something to those people that know about companies that rip people off worse or treat their employees worse than GameStop. We want to hear about it. Instead of just telling 10 people when you have a bad experience, tell 1,000 people. The internet loves when you hate on things so much it can lead to a 400% increase in site traffic. I'd also like to say something to those other corrupt companies that are currently shitting themselves because their employees are going to expose their bullshit. Remember, a happy employee is a quiet employee.
Still, those are that real shit from me to you. Life's hard, I pray that they help you see it through. I keep it cool, my attitude is fuck. It's almost scary how many motherfuckers love it. Now they out with me in my bucket, sipping jack, laid up, hitting the Dutch and it's sitting back. Never missing the track from forever to still. If you ain't feeling that, then you can never be real. Happy ride out, doing the bill behind the wheel.